welcome to, I think we should watch it now, our 10th monthly call of the UK MTB Trail Alliance. And we've got Chris this evening from Tarland Trails, who's going to talk us through how Tarland Trails went from the seed of an idea through to securing £1 million in funding and all the way through to a set of complete trails. Before I start though, could I ask that you all have your video on during the call so everyone can see each other. Please change your display name to include the organisation that you represent. For example, you can see mine is Robin Grant and the UK MTB Trail Alliance. We'll take questions for Chris at the end of the call, so give him a chance to give his talk first. But when you do have questions, put the little hands up item at the bottom of the screen so I know you want to speak. That'd be great. And I'll call people in turn. And having said that, over to you, Chris.
I've got a presentation, but I might not need it. But I'll show it when I get to that point, and you can give me control to show it up as well. That'll be fine. So yeah, I'm Chris Redmond. Those of you who haven't come across me before, I'm the project coordinator for Tarland Trails in Aberdeenshire. Day job as a teacher, and by night sit at a laptop and write funding applications and answer emails and various other things to do with Tarland Trails. So sometime in 2012, I joined a local group here called Tarland Development Group. I should add, I'm originally from Northern Ireland, moved to Scotland for university, and then hung around ever since. So yeah, joined Tarland Development Group with the idea of creating a mountain bike trail centre on the slopes of Pittenderrick and Pressendye, just outside Tarland. No real experience of ever doing a project before, and let's just say a group of volunteers, a charity that you can come along to. You've got an idea, and if they like it and if they go for it, then you can kind of start to work down that process. So my original idea had been a full-blown trail centre, 20 kilometres of trails, and that was a bit scary for what is a small charity that does lots of sort of community-focused projects. So it was decided that I should start small, see if it works, and then take it from there. So spend some time building a small set of trails, community set of trails on the outskirts of Tarland, very close to Tarland. Did a lot of community consultation, and within sort of 3 years, we managed to get Tarland Trails Drummy Woods up and running. For those of you who've never been, small set of trails, 2.5 kilometers or so, pump track, all very within rideable distance from the village by kids and families alike. So, and boy, was that a success. It was the second project in Aberdeenshire in recent times to have built a mountain bike facility. First up being a Boyne Bike Park, and so I have to credit Dale Kitching at a Boyne Bike Park for a lot of my success, because I basically just went round to hers with a pen drive and got all our files, and then just changed the name to Tarland Trails. Managed to secure lots of the funding and stuff through the words she'd written as well. So full-blown plagiarism, but it was fine, and nobody cottoned on anyway. Yeah, so as soon as that project was, I think within 6 months, the project had flown off. It been only the second project in Aberdeenshire to have built something, and so everyone in Aberdeenshire flocked to it. Crazy busy, caused us lots of headaches with access roads and potholes and parking everywhere and various things. But it just proved that there was appetite for this sort of facility in Aberdeenshire, a gap in the market, if you like. And yeah, we set about developing my original vision, which was for the larger scale mountain bike trail centre on the opposite side of Tarland. So Drummy Woods is on the south side of Tarland, and very close, whereas Pittenderrick is on the north side of the village. and yeah, significantly bigger hill to climb. So we had the experience of the first project, and we had all the learning, all the funding applications, all the what went wrong, all the lack of consultation with horse riders that we did so much better the second time round, making sure we had access tracks, fully prepared in the plan, etc., etc., etc. And so we could replicate that on a bigger scale. What I will say is sort of alongside this was students at Robert Gordon's University were developing hypothetical trail centre for their students. And they invited us and a whole heap of other people in the Northeast to come along and see these hypothetical ideas of a trail centre building and etc. And that's where we had involvement from Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland. FLS were there, Forestry and Land Scotland as well. And we got to see all these lovely trail centre designs, very fancy buildings, etc. But what it did do is it brought everybody in Aberdeenshire together under one sort of roof for the first time. And that was a catalyst for discussing and developing further trail centre ideas. And I'll say this now because I'll forget to say at the end, but it's coming full circle again. Robert Gordon's University got in touch with us just last month to say they'd like to run the same project again. Only this time they will use our location as it's more real project to potentially develop a trail centre hub. So 2015, that was when we opened Drummy Woods, and we set about going down the process of planning permission, funding. First time ever going down a crowdfunder route, so we managed to crowdfund all the costs of the planning, which was great. And lots of meetings and things like that. It didn't go smoothly. We had to go to committee, our area committee, about the planning, and but the major headache along the route was the funding. We were looking to build, at the time, a trail centre worth £750,000, but we had post-COVID price increases. We had fuel going up. We had loads of headaches. So budget was higher and higher and higher as time went on. But we were very lucky with Drummy Woods. What set us off was getting a first pot of money. We got £15,000 from someone who died locally, a former trustee who left it in his will to the charity, and 15. I think it was 7 months we secured all the funds. So 15 became 30, is the story I always tell. 30 became 60, 60 became 100. Boom, done. Build the trails. Go, go, go. So yeah, less than a year from getting that first 15,000, all the money was in place for the original trails in Drummy, some £100,000. So we knew we had to get that first pot of money to really get us going. And it was all looking a bit doom and gloom. Our planning was about to lapse, so we managed to sort of use some funds to make a technical start, maintaining that planning for then as long as we needed. We just dug the entrance and made the bottom bit of the car park, and spent a couple of £1,000 doing that just to tick that box. So but for a whole across the country, a blessing in disguise came in the form of storms, Arwen in particular, but Malik and Corey that hit straight afterwards as well. Those of you who experienced that directly or indirectly, it was quite a wild couple of months following that. But for trails here in Aberdeenshire, it decimated all our natural trails, a lot of our natural trails, some of which have still never recovered and never been reopened. And I know that's the case across other parts of the country as well. Our original trails of Drummy Woods suffered, thankfully, only trees down. I think it was 40, if I remember rightly, that had to be cut out. But we got a great community that we rallied around, and very quickly we got those trees nipped out of the way. but it didn't do any trail damage, thankfully, which was good. So yeah, devastating for the northeast. I think even in Aboyne here, fairly populous place. I think we were out of power for about 5 days. And devastating for communities across and people, don't forget that. But out of that adversity, or out of adversity comes opportunity, as the famous phrase goes. There came funding that was going to be our first pot of money. There's an organization up here called the Northeast Adventure Tourism, and they had been supporting us throughout. And we were approached by them that there was a potential for funding to develop things after Arwen and try and boost the adventure tourism to the region, get a trail centre open so we can have trails that people will come to and ride whilst still trying to work on getting all those natural trails reopened. And I think it was the 15th of January that year, Will Clark came to me and went, "Chris, I think we've got you £350,000. Catch is you've got to be ready to start building by the end of March. And at the end of March, you've got to spend 350,000 in 60 days. So some very late nights, lots of whiskey consumed, lots of very stressful moments. It was all go, go, go. And thankfully, a lot of the stuff we had in place, we had everything sort of shovel ready because we'd had so long waiting for this magic pot of money to appear. But the 350,000 was just the start. We had Sport Scotland sitting waiting in the wings, and they weren't committing until we had some money to start us off. So I've always said to my kids here, if we ever win the lottery or the Euro Millions, I'm going to set up a funding body that is the first funder. You come to me for your first pot of money that secures the rest, and then once you secure the rest, I'll give you it all to do that. But I need to keep playing the lottery a bit more to do that. So yeah, we had Sport Scotland then came on board with 300,000. We already had sort of 50,000 kicking about in the pot, and we were good to go. So what we at? About 750,000 plus another 100,000 for the original trails. We're at 850,000 so far. Given the theme is over a million, and we then set about building the trails. So we knew once we got going, we could potentially secure more funding. We could only build 2/3 of what we had planned with that amount of money. So we set about doing another crowdfunder. Having previously secured 5,000, this time we secured 27,000. Again, unbelievable when I just say that figure, it just shows the support for the community mountain bikers up here, and wider for what would turn out to be the newest trail centre in Scotland at the time. So yeah, set about doing that, and whilst we were ongoing, then we didn't stop applying for funding. So having £750,000 in the bank, we had another 100,000 from Rural and Islands Fund, and then that's when Northeast Adventure Tourism pulled out another 215,000, which again is just incredible, to further develop and continue those trails. So yeah, we spent a year putting together the trails, and what we have to thank, of course, the trail builders who turned what we had as a vision and what I had as a vision into what is a fantastic set of trails. And I was thinking about this today in the car over and from my work, thinking, we had a lot of difficult conversations about, well, why are you shortening this trail? Why are you making this steeper? Why are you turning this way? Why are you costing us more money because you want to do this? And all those things then were worth it in the end. Those extra little bits of cost, those extra stress, because what CRC have created for us has been mind blowing in the feedback for those trails as well. So to get to this point, we had obviously First of all, the Tarland Development Group as itself had lots of experience with projects, but never of this scale. So very grateful for all the trustees there, and we have a steering group that is a sort of subgroup, if you like, made up of mountain bikers locally and guides and etc. who helped sort of push this forward. Not just myself. We had two very supportive landowners. One is the McRobert Trust, who are also a funding body. Which they were very supportive of the first set of trails as a very community-minded, community-oriented project. They gave funding for that as well, I'd add. They're a funding body too, but they saw this project as more business orientated and didn't want to contribute financially in that way. But obviously the land is very valuable to us in that respect. We have two landowners, the Mr. and Mrs. Dalgarno, who just want to see their land used as recreational. They own it as a hobby, I suppose, and they've loved seeing the trails and what they've become, and they're so supportive. And we're talking about going down the route of natural trails. Well, landowners like keen to help actually dig as well. So interesting. We had a lot of support from Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland, as I already mentioned. Particularly along the lines of those funds with Sport Scotland, and previously with Drummy Woods as well. I mentioned CRC Trails. I've mentioned Dale already, which is great. Big thing is having a YouTube influencer on board promoting things. So Street Pigeon MTB it did wonders for helping to promote the trail centre for what it was and bring people to visit, spending money and helping contributing to the upkeep and maintenance of the place as well. What else? Bike shops, all the usual things, people that helped along the way as well. Will Clark and Northeast Adventure Tourism were so key in helping source funding. And who else have to name drop? Let's see. Opportunity Northeast Scottish Cycling. Got a list here of all the ones that I previously had to mention in the official opening. So what was it? June last year, 2023. We officially opened the trails. They were fantastically received and continue to be so today. We think we had over 44,000 visits in the first year alone. Unfortunately, another big part of the project having that data for the project was having trail counters. So we had trail counters installed early on in our Drummy Woods project, and we've now got trail counters installed at Tarland Trails. Unfortunately, they came a bit late for capturing the initial bubble, so we have to do a lot of estimating. But 44,000 is quite impressive. The original feasibility study done for the project quite some years ago, and obviously pre-COVID as well, estimated 14,000 visits. So we had triple the estimate that we were expecting. And the trails have just gone from strength to strength. We've had 3 events in the first year: Demo Day, Scottish Cross Country Series for the first time back in Aberdeenshire for quite a long time, and then Doon the Bray events in Juro, which I also wear a hat as lead marshal for Doon the Bray as well. So we've had those 3 events, and it's brought about lots of benefit for Tarland and Aberdeenshire as a whole. So fast forward to I suppose the day of opening, I would say. Northeast Adventure Tourism come and approach us again. Right, Chris, we see this as a massive potential to be a focal point for adventure tourism in Aberdeenshire. Here's another £200,000. But the catch, you've got to put a building in with that and drive further economic development. So we've gone full circle here, from struggling to get money to money falling at our feet, and but with conditions. So We knew it wasn't going to be possible to set about to do that straight away. We knew we had to do the process, follow the process of consultation, and see if there was support for that locally. So we managed to sort of say, well, can we use that money for other things? But we'll look at buildings and see if that's something we can put together. So we managed to persuade them to go for that, and then we got to a point in June there where we had a community consultation on the potential for installing some hub buildings. So what I should add is that all this is done at the minute under a community group, under voluntary, and the potential for this to very much be the support for the community is what the slant that we took it on of using the revenue to employ people, and then making a community fund as well. So we had a consultation event in June, and we're still sort of going down that process. It's not gone as smoothly as we had hoped, and I don't know if this is something that will happen, but it's something we've always received feedback on. I see Daniel's on the call. Daniel will know some of our feedback and iBikeRide, that everybody wants some sort of hub building. But we always set about to develop the trails first and foremost, and wanted the village in Tarland to benefit. The bit that came out from the consultation was that businesses don't feel they've benefited as much as we indicated, as we promised they maybe would. But there's lots of other things there, and I could argue my point of case all night here on this, but I won't go into that. So yeah, we're actually meeting the estate tomorrow, to see where we take that further as well, and hopefully that might change the dynamic of Tarland Trails into more of a paid role and that, but we'll still aim to keep the trails front and center of everything that we do with Tarland Trails. I don't know if I've sort of covered everything there, but it's been a fantastic journey over the last 10 years to take it from a place that is not on the mountain bike map whatsoever, never was, never really had any natural trails on the hillside whatsoever, to place now that it's a destination. It's part of everybody's road trip to Scotland. We must go to Tarland Trails. It's part of my weekly riding, and no matter what goes on, no matter all the negative things, I still, I just love being up there and riding the trails, and we've got one of the best views of a trail centre, and yeah, absolutely love it. So if you haven't been, do come and visit. We've got a YouTube influencer from America who visited recently. His edit will be coming out soon, so we might have some more Americans visiting as well. And yeah, definitely come and give it a shot, and give us a shout if you want the guided tour. So yeah, that's all from me really. If anyone has any particular burning questions they want to ask, I'm happy to answer. And equally, if you go away after tonight and go, "Oh, we should ask them that," just tarlandtrails@gmail.com, ping me an email. Happy to have a phone call with anyone about any little niggles or things or experience, because as I said at the start, I didn't do all this myself. I copied Dale Kitchen's work, so at the start. So yeah, can easily share various things with people, and I suppose that's what the Trail Alliance is all about, Robin. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Cool. Well, I'll give everyone a chance to think of questions. It normally takes people a while to think of questions to ask. Just going right back to the beginning, like you jumped straight into you approaching the local small charity that never funded a project like that before. But look, rewind from that. Like, tell us more about your motivations for doing it in the first place. What you were doing at the time. What prompted you to do it?
Well, I started my teaching career at school near Stirling, and I'm not a big cyclist, never was a big cyclist before then, and I was trying to find things that I could do to run sort of after school clubs with kids, and it just so happened that a training came up for bikeability. I went and did that, ran some after school, the cycling proficiency, if you like, ran some cycling after school and ran a wee trip, and then moved up to Aberdeenshire and thought, well, I can do this. Oh, there's lots of great trails here, natural trails. Oh, maybe I could do my trail cycle leader and take kids mountain biking. So my head teacher went, "Oh, that sounds really good, Chris. That would be a great thing. We don't have any mountain bike clubs ever. Um, yeah, we'll send you on a course. Off we go." And did and then that's where sort of that got me into mountain biking here. And I just saw the success of a Boyne Bike Park, how that was such a great community project, got children cycling. I then used it for my mountain bike clubs. Um, and then, I've got two young kids myself at the time, and that was a big motivator for sure. Wanted to build something local for us in Tarland that we could go and ride. And we always walked in the woods at Drummy, and I shared that idea with one of the trustees at the Tarn Development Group, and they went, "Well, come along and tell us a bit about it." And then they very much supported and nursed it through the early days, and they had all the guidance of getting funding and how to consult and etc. And yeah, and then we sort of went on from there. But I don't claim to be a big cyclist. I just I've got a bit of a skill at writing funny applications and sourcing the money, and I do enjoy it. I certainly got into it far more since doing the trails, and um, now involved in enduros, and it's fantastic.
Oh, very cool. That's good. It's good to understand a bit better about your motivations for doing it. And then just so I've understood, so just on the timeline side of things, there's Drummy Wood one side and the geography as well. So there's Drummy Wood one side of the town, and then the other hill where the new set of trails are the other side. Is that right?
Yeah. So um that just we started with trying to find a location. We had two options close to Tarland, and we decided on Drummy Woods just because there was a bigger drop. Sorry, two options for the smaller project. So it was a bigger drop. But what then has happened naturally is now the village is sandwiched between the two trails. Um, what we had hoped is that there would be the through flow between the two. But what it has more become is our original trails has now become very much beginner intermediate focused. And our new trails have become much more intermediate advanced. And that's partly about the way we've designed it as well. I'm a teacher. I have progression in mind. I had right, my kids are going to learn to ride at Drummy Woods. What do I need next? And that's definitely what the CRC have created for us, is a much more challenging set of trails, greater distance away from the hub. And yeah, so we had 2015, Drummy Woods was open, and 2023, Pit and Derrick has opened. So
Okay,
for
cool.
8 years.
And remind us of the sort of total budget for each set of trails.
So Drummy Woods came in at 100,000, and then think we're 1.1 million for Pit and Derrick, and counting. With if we go down the route of these hub buildings, then we are looking at potentially more funding being offered our way, but with trying to source the other match funding to enable us to potentially build those hub buildings. Yeah, so
Cool. And then even back in 2015, 100 grand was well, it's still a lot of money now, but it's even more money then. That's quite ambitious for your first project. What made you aim that big? Was that as small as you thought you could go, or did you always wanted to go big?
a lot of the funds at the time, they sort of had maximum project budget 100,000, and again, both our main funds have been around major cycling sporting events. So, the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2014 was a legacy fund after the games, and the cycling facilities fund that was that we got for Tarland Trails Pit and Derrick was to do with the UCI Mountain Bike World Cup. So, very excited that I hope that Scotland will host another major cycling event, because then there's another potential big pot of money kicking about to be there. And it's really great to sometimes with projects linked after major events, as I know has been reported. I went to visit it myself in Hadley Bike Park on my way to Europe this summer, and I just saw there what the legacy after the 2012 games has not really followed through with maintaining and upkeeping that. And I'm so proud of that. What we have done is maintain that legacy, and we now have riders across loads of disciplines, having trained or raced or practiced at Tarland, that are now podium in various events across Scotland, the UK for now, but don't know if anyone international yet. But so proud that we can put that money to good use from that legacy, and prove that legacy funds really do make a difference. So
cool. Well, I've got loads more questions, but I'll let Dan ask his, because he's had his hand up for a while.
Oh, hey Chris, brilliant to meet you. I've been following your story for ages, and just absolute kudos. I'm wondering, so you talk about it was like 200k for 1 million, 1.2 million for Pit and Derrick. I'm wondering if you go forward 3 or 4 years, what your view of what your ongoing operating costs will be, and where your view is on where that funding will come from. And is any of that funding already looked into some of the funds and grants and awards that you've got? Or is it you would look for more funding, or you would have other means of bringing funds in, be it car park fees, or maybe through the hub if that is successful? But trail development side, just the trail maintenance, how are you planning to sustain that commercially?
yeah, so I think we learned from the first project that the key is little and often to trail maintenance. So we'd have 2 volunteer days a year. We do little bits with our steering group, etc. But most of that was done on a voluntary basis. Small trails, very accessible by car. You can literally park right next to them, and all nice and easy. But the bigger set of trails, 20 kilometers to look after, is obviously over a massive area. So right at the outset in the business plan was to pay a trail maintenance officer. Initially, we said 1 day a month, I think it was, and use the proceeds from the car park to pay that person, and then start from there and see how we're going. Very quickly, we realized that we need to up that, but also we could up that because we had so many people coming to visit, and so many people paying. At the honesty rate is estimated at about 70% from our feasibility study. We reckon we had 90 to 95% honesty rate, certainly for the first 6 months. As time's gone on, that's dwindled a little bit, but that's based on walking around the car park. Have they got a parking pass? Have they got a parking ticket? That sort of thing. So if we can keep that up, then that is going to help pay for the trail maintenance for every year to come. What we can do on a very successful first year is bank that money, so that we always have that fund ready to continue to pay those trail maintenance staff. What was really successful for us was setting up a season pass scheme, which we did it as a sort of a membership. So you bought your season pass, you joined as a member on the website, and then we have that means of contacting everybody. promoting the parking passes, and we sold so many before the trails even opened. We'd had these special gold ones, and you were a legend if you had a gold one, and everyone sort of wore them like a badge of honor in their cars. And that I don't know how we did it, but we managed to build the hype really well. With the trails, and I think it was partly all the videos and all the great little shots of what was to come. And so we got that first buzz of season passes. Now, admittedly, this year's renewals have not been anywhere near that level, but we've been able to sort of use that, bank that money as a starter pot, and then every money going forward from here on in a sort of normal year will cover the maintenance costs. But very quickly we put our maintenance officer up to 2 days, and then after a year we've now got 2 maintenance officers on 2 days a month each, either working together or separately. And we recently, as me and my kids went to Bike Park Wales to sort of have a wee nosy around and see how they did things, and it's a fantastic setup they have there. Very commercial, but it would love to get to a point where we can have a full-time team constantly maintaining and fixing and maybe building trails as well. We have recently applied for some funding, pay dirt, Santa Cruz pay dirt. Very easy application. If you ever want to have a look at it, it was literally 25-minute job and it was away. So it's certainly, when that comes around again, if you're looking for it, it's not a huge amount of UK projects on it at the minute, so it might be worth a punt, and hopefully we'll find out in the end of the month. And we were able to apply for 400 hours of staffing costs on that for trail maintenance as well. So fingers crossed we'll hear about that and see if we can get that as well. And does that cover everything, Daniel? I think
yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
The key thing is to be seen to be investing that money. People put their parking money in, they know it's going back into the trails. We're a community group, we're a charity. We all want that. We want to make sure people do that and keep selling it. The crowd one of their trails is named crowd surfing after the crowdfunder, and that cost us £27,000 that trail. So if you hadn't put your hand in your pocket then that trail would not have existed. So we want to keep thanking everyone that puts their money in for the parking passes, donates, whatever way, and we've got endless ways you can give us your money if you want. So yeah,
it sounds like you've got a really strong connection with your community, that if they're paying the money in the car park, it's actually really going back into the trails, which is really positive. The only other follow-on I would have, if I can steal another, just I suppose how do you connect with the community? Is it predominantly through social media and stuff, or is there events or things that you cover at the trails to bring people that community together?
Very quickly on, we realized that a big part of it is the social media aspect, and keeping that current, keeping something every week, something coming up, so it keeps appearing in people's feeds, keeps it top of center. So what we then did was, again, because the trails were very successful the first year, we now employ somebody, a local lad, Jimmy, who was actually on the first steering group for the first set of trails as a kid. Came along to those boring meetings where all the adults talked, and he was the one kid who said, "I want this for Tarland," which was brilliant. So he's now employed as our social media content creator, and so that's why you don't look at that and see me sitting writing loads of social media posts all the time. But he's fantastic at doing that and promoting that, sharing that. So yeah, the parking passes, season passes, we have those people as members, and we can email them out and keep things current as well. Lots of good video footage. One of our steering group members is a videographer, so he helps with creating content there. What I should have said at the start is this whole story you will be able to watch in our own little documentary, hopefully released at some point soon. We're having our own film night to release that, and then we'll put it out on YouTube for people to see. But we'll still try to tell the story of Tarland Trails, as I've just sort of summarised for you tonight, in a handy little video. Yeah, that's, again, I think I have to credit Street Pigeon and Jamie, for his efforts in creating such a fantastic edit for 100,000 views. Constantly people telling me that's why they've come here. I've seen it on YouTube, which is good. It's one of those things. So if you can create that content to keep people seeing your set of trails or seeing then that's a real bonus as well. And then if people are seeing it, we can keep plugging our, we're selling our t-shirts, so we just 100% of the profits of the t-shirts go straight back into the trails. We're just doing that for fun. People ask us, and we've been able to. We haven't really got down the sponsorship route. That's a big thing that's never really we've been successful with. I know maybe other projects have been successful with, and maybe it's thread for the alliance at some point, but we managed to secure a little bit of a sponsorship with Fortan, who do our jerseys, and they're sponsoring our trail maintenance staff with clothing and things. So no money's changing hands, but we are going to hopefully get a bike wash installed, and we were hoping that we could have some support and help from some bike brands there with that, but it's never really come about. And to be honest with you, I don't hugely want Tarland to become a massive commercial entity. I love it the way it is. It's that small community feel, and Bike Park Wales is that commercial entity and that business entity, and I want to be sort of somewhere in between. I think just to be different, and and not all be the same. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. Anyone else got any questions? No one's got their hands up yet. So I will go back to my long list of questions. So obviously you talked about that in your original. Is this? I presume it's the second set of trails that you were aiming for 14,000 visits a year. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you're at 40K, which is amazing. What sort of, for that level? What sort of, were the funders keen to see a certain level of visits for a certain amount of money, or was it not that closely linked?
Well, we had to put a lot of data in to estimate the visitor numbers. So feasibility study done by Tourism Resource Management gave us those figures, but also we had our counters data. So I'd encourage anyone either starting a project or currently with a project, get some counters in and get some data with how many people Like I can log in now and tell you how many people were riding at the trails today. We had for example, we had a demo weekend, 2020 local bike shop. Again, that's another thing about building that community. They come with their bike brands, and it's £10 to demo a bike, and half of that goes to Aberdeenshire Trail Association, which is our local trail association for natural trails, and the wider advocacy as well. And then half of it comes to Tarland Trails. So I think they demoed 130 bikes. So that's a sort of £500 coming our way for hosting that, and that's just, again, bike shops wanting to put in to help sustain the trails, because they know what a great asset it is to the area. But yeah, the trail counters, we had 510 people pass the counter on Saturday and 410 on Sunday. Now, with the demo weekend, there's probably lots of repeats past that, so that's not individual people. It's quite a lot of e-bikes going past maybe 3 or 4 times, but it gives a good indication. So by the end of this month, I will have a full set of data for year one, and we were at 36,000 visits at the start of September. So 37,000 after this weekend. So it'll be another good evidence to support that further growth and development, if that's something we want to explore. Don't know what your original question was there, but
well, yeah, it was more about like how much. I mean, how many visitors are expected? you know, if I if I'm a, if I'm a fund giving you money to sort of promote economic development through tourism in Aberdeenshire, how many visitors am I expected to get for my 500 grand? I suppose that's sort of and how are you modelling the impact of each visitor? You know, in terms of their
That's,
like that.
yeah, that's really hard to do. That's something we've been criticized for, maybe is the right, maybe not the right word to it, but um, the feasibility study promised is this word that's been used a lot by local businesses. Um, promised that 50% of the visits to the trails would come down to the square. The businesses in the square feel that that's not been realised. Now, that's a lot of people to come to a village square of, we're talking Tarland's a village of 700 people. So with 6 businesses in it, 2 pubs, a cafe, a post office, and a convenience store. But it's very hard to get that data now. There's data out there from national studies that say visitors spend on average £12 per person per day as a day visitor, and something like 80 or £90. So, if we're saying 44,000 visits, let's say 20,000 of them are individual people, because I've been 20 times in that time as count. I know a guy who's ridden one of the trails 150 times in a year, so he's come a lot. So you can extrapolate that. Potentially there's quite a lot of money being spent locally, and I've got lots of good anecdotes. We're just about to share one from a guy from America. Came to work from home in Tarland, so stayed in a Airbnb. He works in the same time zone somewhere in Nigeria, I think, from America. Came, rode the trails, loved them, went to the local bike shop, bought a bike. So there's $10,000 already spent locally. Bought drinks, stayed for 2 weeks, I think it was. So, $2,000 on accommodation. And I've got lots of anecdotes like that, but not a lot of concrete data, which is the really hard bit to do, and it just doesn't exist. It's very difficult to get. Even governing bodies and national and even governments struggle to get this data. So to expect us to be able to put our hands on that data is maybe a bit too much. But I've got lots of great anecdotes like that. My other one in a similar vein is a Swiss couple, Swiss friends. Again, came to work from home in Tarland, had never travelled for mountain biking before, saw Street Pigeons video from Switzerland, came and stayed a month in Tarland. So £3,000, I think, in accommodation alone, and then explored Deeside and Ballater and Balmoral and all those other areas as well, and spent money across the board. So 2 little anecdotes that I love to tell as evidence for economic development. And then the other one is that chain effect. Couple they come mountain biking, then the partner comes back with a lads trip, then the lads trip comes back a second time. One of the other lads in the lads trip brings his family back the next time, and so on and so on. And that snowball effect. That again, we know anecdotally stories of that too. So yeah, a big part of what we're going to potentially have to try and do with further developments is prove that economic benefit to Tarland, and it's going to be a difficult one. So, but we know it's there.
Cool. And then everyone else, please feel free to put your hands up rather than letting me dominate the questions. But I'll carry on until you do. You mentioned the local businesses not being like 100% happy. I mean, how have you dealt with that? Have you brought them back around again?
You are recording this, aren't you? So maybe.
Yeah, I am recording it, yeah. It's definitely going on YouTube.
No, so we had the consultation, and that threw out a lot of the issues. It cleared a lot of the air as well, for sure. And so we've since hosted a business meeting, where I hoped there would be equal amount of actions, because partly we feel as a group it's partly for the businesses to go out there and get those people to come to them as well. It's not just about a group of charity volunteers to put it on a plate. So we had around that meeting, we've had various suggestions that they can do to help attract mountain bikers, promote. A big part of mountain bikers we find is Instagram more so than, and again, the age demographic. Instagram tends to be younger, mountain bikers, and Facebook tends to be older, is what we find as well. So looking at our stats, so it's about using both those social media outlets to appeal to. Haven't even gone into TikTok yet. I don't even know whether that would be some method of doing that as well. But and YouTube obviously for promoting videos as well. So we've had that business meeting, and out of that, unfortunately, came lots of actions for ourselves rather than much for the businesses. But we'll do those things and see if that makes a noted improvement. And as I said, we expect to have a few more American visitors once the American equivalent of Street Pigeon releases their edit as well, because Tarland featured on their tour along with lots of other trails in Scotland as well. But so we shall see. And then we hope to get round the table again in once a quarter with the businesses and just see what's what, see how things are going, and work from there. But not everyone could make it, not everyone came, and you want to try and have this united front. That's what I was really hoping for. And a small win we're hoping is that we've just had some bike racks installed in the square. Square is it very rarely changes, so to have this in is a big change. And what we want to do is encourage people to ride to the square between those two sets of trails, make use of the bike racks, lock your bikes up, go and access the businesses, etc. So one of the things we're exploring is having bike locks available, and we'd pay for those from the proceeds from the trails, so that then there's a bike lock in every business, so you can go in, get a bike lock, lock your bike up. The hope is you go in and go, oh look, I'll buy this from the toy shop, or I'll buy this from the pharmacy, or I'll go and get a coffee, or I'll go to the pub, or I'll go to the paper shop and get an ice cream. Then, but equally, there's again that added security of bike locks as well for people available. But only one has expressed a willing to engage in that after the meetings. So we might just have to start with one and see. Another thing we did right from the start was offer every business a poster. Again, paid for the proceeds from the trails to promote themselves and vice versa. So we paid our artwork expert Ellie to make a business poster, and we had all the businesses bar one join in on that as well. So there's a bit more work to be done around that, but again, you see lots of trail centers have big banners and various things advertising businesses, and we haven't really gone down that route hugely. But that's maybe something we could explore as well. And if anyone else has any other ideas of how businesses promote themselves to mountain bikers, I'll be all ears.
So those posters you're doing, what, just going to be on a series of boards in the car park?
Yeah, so we did them right from the start, because a big part of getting our planning permission was saying that that would boost the economy of Harland and the wider area. So we wanted to be seen right at the start to be promoting that. So A4 posters, just nicely designed, so they're all sort of not it's all the same, but they're all designed by Ellie, who's a really creative designer, and then they're accessible for us to use for social media. So we bring them out every now and again to promote the businesses. You'll see if you look on our socials. They're up in the car park, albeit in the toilets. That's one of the actions we have to get sorted, is to get a big notice board outside the toilets. But everyone visits the toilets, and if you place them strategically, you'll see. So that's another action to do. But yeah, we're gonna do a bit of work before we maybe look at further developments. So
Cool. And just, I suppose out of interest, is the car park for the trails at the same elevation as the town, or do you have to climb back up a hill at one stage?
yeah, so if you're going from the village back to Pittenderrick, it is a bit of a climb. 5 minute cycle. So it is a bit of separation. So I think that's helped when I said about um on our honesty rate for the car park. I think it's quite a bit out of the village in a sense. So there's not many other alternatives to park elsewhere. I'm thinking other trail centers that charge, for example, and have maybe an ANPR system. So one I've been to, Winlatter, if you've ever been there, it's got an ANPR system. So if you go in, you will have to pay to sort of leave if you like. But just if you go down the road and to the left, there's loads of people who park the cars up against the verge and to avoid that. And we haven't found that. Uh, I think it's definitely a job to do is to go and see what the honesty rate's like now. Um, we've recently just had put up QR um signs, and it's just like if you don't have any cash or whatever, but it's weird how people don't see the parking machines. So we've put one at the entrance and one as um you head off into the trails and everyone passes it. And we've had it in for 2 weeks, and I think it's had another 80 payments. Um, so that's been really helpful in terms of revenue. So what, 80 times five? Um, £400 worth more for paying staff to maintain trails. So
Cool. Ian's got a question.
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones. How many car parking spaces do you have there, Chris? Out of interest.
you can squeeze in 140. In the first few weeks of opening, I had to be there each weekend parking cars because it was just so popular, and it was a double whammy because the weather was just awesome, and it then stayed just awesome from then on. So we also had the double bank holiday as well. So that was 2 busy weekends. I think we had each of those weekends we had 360 cars, 500 cars or so, each of those weekends, which was astonishing.
Wow.
We very much set out, sorry, into make sure we had a car park big enough. That was one of the things we learned from the first project was we hadn't built a car park big enough. We space for 20 cars and it always needed 30 or 40. So when the feasibility study said you need a car park of 40 for this size of trail centre, we went, well, we'll double that. And then when it actually got built, we could fit 120 in because we said the CRC like just be a wee bit bigger with things here and there where you can. So and then since then we've actually added a little sort of ramp up onto a grassy area, and then you can for the demo event this weekend, all the demo event staff could put their cars up in there, and that left more space to create more capacity.
And then the other question I had was those visitor numbers, are they based off a year?
Yeah, so the first year of opening the trails was 40. We estimated 44,000 visits. Yeah. The trail counters were installed at the end of September, start of October. So when we get to this October to October, we will have a full set of data for counts, and that's currently sitting at 36,000 visits. Now I keep saying that's visits because that's sort of part of the information we have to get across to the businesses is that a lot of these visits are repeat visits. It's local people coming 20 times in a year, if more, maybe, on average. So what we haven't been able to identify, I suppose, is unique visits within that, but that's where we can use our parking ticket data as well. So we've got parking machines that can tell us, how many tickets were sold. But what we also did with the counters was we installed a car counter on the entrance. So every car coming in and every car coming out is the same way. So we can then extrapolate from that. Well, there was 500 people here in a weekend. There was 200 cars or 250 cars, let's say. So there was 2 people per on average per car. So we can start to help us get that data. So yeah, car counters was a good bit as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, so it's very hard to get visitor numbers accurate. And the other thing with our trails at Drummy Woods is the counters at the top. And you get through all 3 trails from the top. So how many times do people go to the top is that you need to answer to then work out. So if it's averaged of 3 times, you divide the number by 3 that you've got through the counters. So it's a bit more of a guessing work for Drummy Woods, because there's not a one way in, one way out. Whereas with Pitt and Derrick, there very much is an easy way to count people. Cool. Thanks for the question.
Sorry, I tapped the wrong, pressed the wrong button.
Karen's got her non-virtual hand up. Is that a question?
Go ahead, Karen.
I can't hear you, Karen. You're on mute, Karen.
Karen, you're still on mute. When you work, we'll leave Karen's work that out. So one question I have, obviously, is what went wrong? As in, what was the worst experience out of both sets of trails? What was the biggest thing that went wrong that you had to sort of deal with, I suppose?
Sheep dying.
Sheep dying.
Yeah. Well, so we had a massive number of people come in the first month. In the first 2 months, I think we had 6 mountain rescue callouts. It was 2 in one weekend. It was just incredible. And our trails are a newer set of trails to the UK. They were very flowy. Something that people hadn't really experienced hugely in this country. So we had a mountain rescue call that involved a helicopter, and the helicopter was blamed for death of farmers' lambs locally, and that just caused us a world of public relations pain. We compensated the farmer. We made efforts to address the issues that came out of the mountain rescue callouts. We had already had pre-visits to mountain rescue before the trails opened. We'd done all our homework on all that, but we didn't expect so many callouts so soon. Now, having said that, we've had 8 callouts, I think, in a year, and none for ages, touch wood. But when you've got 2 local farmers who you're trying to build a relationship with, who aren't hugely supportive because they're tenant farmers and the landowner sort of permitted this project to happen. So you're trying to build that relationship, and then that happens and it just blows everything out of the water. And you try very hard. We had to try very hard to recover things and get things back on an even keel. It's still a work in progress really there. So what we got right was a lot of stuff for the horse riders. We got that wrong the first time. So we got that wrong with Drummy Woods. We built trails where it crossed existing horse riding routes. It ran parallel to horse riding routes that we didn't realise, which caused a lot of concern. Horse riders then said they wouldn't ride in those woods anymore, and we had to work really hard. So with the second project, we consulted them right from the word go. We got a group of horse riders together. We showed them the trail maps and where trails crossed and signage and everything like that, and that was really good. So yeah, what else went really badly wrong? Yeah, we've had storms and storm damage on our first set of trails, and I think that's not really bad because we've dealt with it very quickly and again learned from those mistakes. What else went wrong? That's a hard. Didn't come with all that. Came with all the successes. So Yeah, I think that say the main thing is that, and you know, we're always worried that um it's a big thing about liability and insurance and all that, and hopefully that never comes our way. But we know it's a big burden for groups and communities at the minute, and with various things. So we hope that never comes our way. So we just want to make sure that we're keeping on top of maintaining the trails and doing everything as best we can to do that.
So actually,
Um,
that prompts another question, which is insurance. So because obviously you've got people have the right to roam anywhere on your trails, right? So you can't restrict access. How does that play into it? You know, how affordable is your insurance? I mean, if you're happy to tell us how much it costs, that would be good, but you don't have to. But my point is,
well,
how big an outlay is that for you?
So I think with the first set of trails, we started at £110. Just to show you the progression from 2015. Very much our insurance is lumped in with all of Tarland Development Group projects. So I think that helps keep the cost down because we've got, ironically, because we've got other lower risk things. We've got a community garden, we've got a composting scheme, we've got an apple pressing, various other things. So yes, whilst we've got extra things to insure, I think it widens it just shows you the breadth of experience we have. We're not just mountain bike trails, we've got lots of other things. And we then paid, I think, £1,200 when the new trails started. So again, that's a big thing to factor in, making sure we make enough money from car parking to cover that. We recently just had a renewal through for up to £3,000. We're still not wholly sure that Zurich understand completely what they're covering, and so we are still doing some more work to make sure they do. We are aware that lots of other groups are struggling at the minute. Aboyne Bike Park, for example, the successful project I mentioned at the start, were quoted something like £4,000, and they don't have a car park revenue scheme like we have that can help to pay that. So, and last year, when Port William Pump Track was about to open, day before it's about to open, the insurance went through the roof to £6,000. I think they got it down to 3,900 was the story, but it's just about making sure you have all that paperwork and that accountability and that record keeping that shows that you're doing the right things. And it's something we're concerned about that could go up even further. £3,000 was seeming reasonable to compared to those £6,000 quotes.
Yeah, it does seems reasonable to me, considering that you're affecting the landowner, right? You're insuring for the liability risk of
we leased
right?
we leased the land, yeah, and it came about because we want to explore down this route of natural trails and building it, and it's all about that liability, and we're building it as trail builders experienced in doing our own trail building, but we're not the company, we're not CRC Trails, but we want to do that to add a bit of a different dynamic, but not too much. We still want to be known for our flow trails in Tarland because we've got plenty of other natural trails about. So yeah. Karen,
Cool.
is your speaker working now? Is it?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. We can,
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Is that third-party liability through the Zurich charities insurance, Chris?
Yeah. To be honest with you, the treasurer has been dealing with that. But we've always had Zurich insurance for a number of years. So, and I think I put a thread on to discuss that. And the other one was EM, I think, that was I was going to explore as well from our benefit. But yeah, Zurich's always
And
been
that's just third-party liability and their charities insurance, is it?
Yeah,
so
it covers for
public liability. Sorry,
10 million public liability. So 5 is not enough anymore. You're going to go for 10, and that just covers us for if someone attempts to make a claim against us for something we've not done. So
Yeah, yeah, it covers in the event of negligence on the
yeah,
on your behalf. Yeah,
yeah,
ours is
yeah.
ours is still 250. That might is that. I wonder if it goes on on usage. We've never had to tell them what our numbers are, what our usage is, and we're still paying £250 a year. If we
That's
went up to 6,000, there's no way we couldn't afford that.
yeah. Where are you, Karen? Is it
That's
Golspie? Yeah.
interesting. Highland, yeah,
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 Golspie. Yeah. Yes.
Golspie,
Yes. Oh, Karen
Highland
Newman,
Wildcat,
isn't
yeah, hi, yeah,
it?
yeah,
Hi. Good to see you in person rather than via message.
absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, no, we did a bit of, because we went and said to Zurich, look, we want to ensure us building a natural trail. Suddenly they gave us lots of questions. And so, the worry is if you keep quiet, you might not be insured enough. But equally, if you go and talk to them, they might hike the bill up. So it's one thing to consider. A Boyne Bike Park's problem was they wanted to change the name. And so then Zurich said, we're now not insuring you. So it's currently closed. They haven't really said
just for a name change.
Yeah. So they just for name change, once Zurich then realised, and so there was this debate about having the bike park name in there. And I did suggest why not change the name to take out the bike park, but no, Zurich have turned around and gone, we've now realised what you are, we're now not going to insure. So there's various work going on with AIM and other local brokers who are mountain bikers to see what we can come up with. And again, Northeast Adventure Tourism have sent us some supporting information as well with the whole insurance. It's a big issue, obviously, and it's not sustainable to hike the prices up for community groups like yourselves at Golspie, and anywhere really because all we'll see is the place is shut because volunteers can't sustain that sort of money incoming. It's really hard to get money for ongoing maintenance, as we know.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, I find that a bit worrying because we've just taken on the lease for Slam Dunk. I don't know if you've been to Golspie recently, but there's the previous director George built a hand-built trail and on the site, and we've just officially taken on the lease for that. So you're saying that a hand-built trail they see differently to a formal like CLC type built trail.
Yeah,
they've never actually asked. That isn't one of the questions. That's never been asked.
That was what we were trying to ascertain because our landowner who were looking to build the trail on asked that question. So he wanted to ensure that he was protected from liability because he's wanting to help. He's helped. He's got a tractor and Heather Brasher. And he's already brashed the line for us to make it easier to dig. So he's really keen and supportive to do that. But that's what he asked for. So yeah.
Okay.
I see there's a question in there. Is there a plan to involve the non-mountain bike community in aspects of ecology and biodiversity? Is that 67, 70? So from a Tarland Trails perspective, we keen to sort of promote that nature restoration and recovery following the build. So our landowner has recently fenced off a massive chunk of the trails and is replanting it, and albeit that's not involving the non-mountain bike community, but as a result of the trails being there and as a result of the enjoyment people, he's adapted his plans to not go commercial in the same aspect. Originally it was going to be a lot of plantation forest, and ecologically devoid of any life. But he's very much changed his tune to more native species, more open areas around the trails as well, and allowing more natural regeneration. So we're keen to plant up our bit of field that we had that's now the Snakes and Ladders Trail, and every year we plan to do a sort of planting session in there and much like at Golspie, where the first section, imagine was through virgin land, and then now it's got all these trees going up over it. We hope that will transform things over time. But yeah, keen to involve as many people as possible to improve the environment around the trails that we do.
There's a thread on the Trail Hub about that.
Oh, is there? Okay, I'll go now.
Well, yeah, well, there is, actually, someone had a great idea on it, which was there's a charity that gives away trees, or seeds. I can't quite remember which, but there was some really useful stuff on there.
Yeah, you can get trees galore wherever you need. If you ever need trees, just there's tons of organisations that'll give you them. So,
going back to your this discussion about sort of natural trails, which I presume you mean sort of handmade trails and sort of scratched in trails, right, versus contractor built trails, which was usually machine built. And obviously, you talked about being the only flow trails in Scotland.
Not only, but yeah.
I mean, what was your thinking behind that? I mean, I presume that was your idea and that was your brief to CRC, or was it their idea? Or
we got this. I had a squiggle on a map. The squiggle on the map became a feasibility study from the trail designer Paul Masson, from Psychotherapy. And then when we came to the tendering process, the CRC had then developed their own sort of trail design team as well, and then the ground allowed for it, the material allowed for it, and Tom, the designer, had a lot of experience being in Canada, and that's where he sort of took a lot of that, and Europe as well. So, and yeah, it's been really successful. A lot of people have asked in our feedback surveys for some natural trails. We're not overly going to go to town on that because we want to be, our unique selling point is that flow trails. But we want to sort of respond to that feedback just so we can eke up. Where's Daniel? He's still there. Eke up another 2 places maybe next year, because we built a natural trail on the iBikeRide Trail of the Year. So we want to do it as well. We've hosted an enduro. We've got another enduro coming. Could be another add to that, and we do model ourselves a bit on Glenlivet as well. It's our nearest other trail centre. They've got a lot of flow trails. CRC have been involved a lot with there. They've got some natural trails that have added an extra layer to the offering there. They've got the Kieran's line, gap jump line. I'd love to have something like that at Tarland at some point in the future. But Reach the Mountain Rescue before that as well. Yeah, so we've got lots of wild ideas. It's just about how much us as volunteers have that capacity, and if we can channel these really benefits and future developments into making money to support a job, and then develop it further and continue to be that economic driver for change in Tarland and Deeside and beyond. So and so we can build more trails.
Cool. So it's about getting more funding, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if there's a Tarland Trails 3, I might not be married anymore. So it has to be a paid enroll in some way, I think. So, and if I can make that, if we can employ someone to do that, brilliant. That'd be fantastic.
Okay. Well, look, actually, I mean, just as a follow-on from that, like, and I can ask the same question to anyone responsible for, a set of trails, whether that be a bike park or somewhere like Glen Tress. But like, how confident are you that you can evolve the trails over time to keep up with changing sort of rider demands, fashions, all of that sort of stuff? I mean, obviously, if you're a set of natural trails in the woods that no one's paid for, you don't need to worry about it because no one's paid for it, but those trails will just sort of evolve by themselves as people build and ride different things, right? Whereas you've got to try and predict those changes as they happen. And a big critique of you know, the Seven Stains and the Welsh Trail Centres, they haven't evolved for the last 20 years, and that's why people have stopped riding them. I mean, how are you going to avoid that happening at Tarland?
Good question. Good question. I think we've set that precedent right from the start that you pay your parking, it's going to reap benefits. You're going to be another trail. It's going to be maintenance here. It's going to be whatever there. So I think that's it's where the Glentress hasn't been seen. Maybe it has been doing it. Yes, it has been doing it for sure. There's been volunteers. There's been work put in, but it's not been seen to be doing it, and it's being seen to be doing that. That's the big part. And so long as we can keep reinvesting that revenue from car parking into the trails, then I think we can continue to evolve. We've built an e-bike climb. That's something that we've shouted about. So e-bikes are going to be a big part. So e-bike charging is something we're considering. How can we evolve to do that and facilitate that? And yeah, it's just about trying to keep on top of things, and any big developments can always source more funding. Let's say the next time a big cycling event comes to Scotland, we'll be right on there for how can we capitalize from it, and maybe down the line there's scope for 10, 5, 10, 20 kilometers more trails. I don't think we'll ever get the size of Glentress. We just don't have the area, but certainly hope that we can keep up with things. And I was recently spent 3 weeks in Europe for the first time ever traveling mountain biking, and come back with a wealth of ideas. So if Europe's already doing it, then maybe those are the things we should look at doing as well, or looking to see how we can bring that about. So yeah, I'll have a think of that one. I might put it on a thread.
You've probably got. I don't think it doesn't happen overnight, does it? It happens over a period of years, I think. But
yeah, I think we've had nearly 10 years of our first trails, and I think it's time for a refresh there. It's time for bring some diggers in, resurface it, reshape it. It was built 10 years ago by a cross-country designer. Do we get CRC? Albeit CRC, the diggers were doing it, but it was a different designer now. Do we give the Tom a go to redesign it and reshape it and make it new again? And that would be a really good thing to show that where your money's going is, like, we're just revamping trails for beginner trails so we can get them practice before they come to the big trails. So
cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions for anyone else? No one's got their hands up. Did someone say something there? No. Okay. Well, I think we'll leave, unless you've got any final words, Chris. We could. I will see if anyone wants to talk about anything else. So we could widen the conversation out. And talk about some of the issues on this call, but not specific to Tarland Trails. So, an example being, we talked about Hadley Park earlier, and that trail. Like how do we generically, across the UK, try and avoid that fate for trails. And again, if you look at what's happening in Wales at the moment, and with trail centre trails running out of money, and perhaps not being seen to be relevant by a large proportion of mountain bikers anymore. What can we do about that as a community, I suppose? Anyone want to try that, talk about that, or should we just leave it?
Well, the big thing is paying for it. We're stuck in Scotland that we've built these trails, but we can't force people to pay. We have to ask them, please, can you pay your parking? We can't say pay £30 to ride these set of trails. Bike Park Wales obviously can pay. You can, whatever, £54 a day it is, and that money can be seen to be reinvested in the trails. But we can't force people to pay. But there's a couple of places that are now doing that in Scotland, which are pay per pay per ride. One being in the Cairngorms at the ski centre. You know, you pay to access those trails and use the lift there. And if the Ride Ness Trail Centre gets a go ahead up near Inverness, then that will be a Bike Park Wales style pay to ride, even though you probably still come in and access it. So, you know, and for Hadley, it's about having the money, isn't it? The council don't have the money. So it's about how can you create that revenue stream to sustain, maintain, and develop?
Yeah. Well, just before I move on to try and answer that question a little bit. So you can't force people to pay for a car park. Does it have to be voluntary, or you can force people to pay for a car park, but they can then pass?
You can't. If Karen's on the call, Karen, she's gone now, has she? But Golspie came to being just before the Scottish Electric Access Code came in, and so they on their ticket machine said it's a pay to ride. So you buy your ticket to ride, but we can only charge for parking.
Yeah, but you can, but that's an inferior compulsory charge. Like, obviously some people don't pay it but that's because they're, they're being naughty. It's not like it's not actually voluntary, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, in the same way that I could I could chance it by parking in the Forestry England car park without paying the parking ticket. But if a parking guy came around, he could plonk a ticket on my car, right? You can in theory do the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Just so I understand, because it might be different.
We can't put a fence up around the trails.
Yeah.
And put one way in and charge entry, because that would be against the Scottish Electric Access Code. If you charged before it came in, you can charge after. So anything that was charging before 2006 can still continue to charge for access. So an example of that locally here is the local Aboyne Loch. Charged £10 a boat, so they can still charge, even though I'm part of the canoe club here, to bring 25 people down, but they would still charge us a tenner every boat. So, and because they charged before the code came in, they can charge after. So
interesting. Jess, you got your hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. I'll just I was looking for the audio. Yeah, I think parking charge and things like that, it is a bit awkward getting people to pay, because my understanding is that even though the forestry can stick a ticket on you, because it's not the council, you don't actually have to pay the ticket, the charge. So it is sort of voluntary. From my perspective in England is that generally speaking, people have got used to the fact that you don't pay to ride, because it was, it's historical, isn't it? Forestry land was just there. Then it's right now you can come along and ride bikes, because we've got to get more people there. But it's never been sort of set up to be paid for. So people don't see that they have to. Then the other thing is the disconnect between paying a parking charge and seeing any money going into the trails themselves. And the Forest Commission have been absolutely rubbish at, because they're the biggest trail centre people really, actually promoting that they are putting money into the trails. They very rarely do. And this idea that they aren't really evolving, which is true in a way, because they've got, I think it's about 1,300 miles of bike trail to maintain, which is, astronomical to maintain, really. So they just isn't, I don't think there really is the money there. What we've been doing at SingletrAction with the Forest Commission is trying to promote more that when we are doing work, that people see it. I still think that just in North Yorkshire, they've now started putting parking meters in everywhere. And they need to quite quickly make some financial, I'll make something happen with on the trails to see it, that people think that money is now going towards the trails, even if not all of it is. Even if it's just signage or whatever. They're coming up with a new system of signage for all the trails, and they need to crack on with that, in my opinion, to make it look like money is being spent. And then, as I say, as SingletrAction, we put quite a lot of effort, or I've been putting quite a lot of effort in recently into the social media after every dig day to show that things are changing, that we are trying to move the trails on. And we also try and, I suppose, give the biggest bang for your buck. We've been picking off bits of trails that people really want to see a change on, so that they get in something that they really appreciate. But I think that's just us locally. There's still a long way to go from the Forest Commission to actually make use of what they've got and improve it. It's an asset they've got to invest in somehow, and they're still not doing that. How's that?
That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think, just out of interest, so when you say they've got to show that they're putting some money back into trails, I mean, in reality, are they putting any money of that parking back into trails, or are you not sure? Or
I mean, every trail centre has, so every year has budget to put some money back into the trails. It's not a huge amount of money, so generally, I think Dolby was about 25 grand. Now, that's not a lot of money in terms of, if you're paying a contractor to do that, and of course everything has to go through their main contractors. But they just don't publicise that after the fact that they've done it, or say that they're getting people in enough to say, yeah, we're changing something, we're doing it. And a lot of the time it is just resurfacing because it needs to be done. That isn't actually improving the trail. But it's not helpful that they're the way they've got their framework set up is that New Trail is, design and build is a separate framework to maintenance. So technically, if you're on the maintenance, you're meant to just repair the trail that's there. And if you're, but really what you want them to do is improve it, but that will be seen as a new trail work. And so that could be treading on somebody else's toes if you're not you're not on both frameworks, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
it doesn't really lend itself. So, I mean, when I was at Clicksby's, we always, if it was maintenance, I was always saying to the lads, look, if something's not quite right, let's just tweak it. Just don't tell anybody to do it because we're here. So berms would get a little bit better and things like that. Whereas, you technically you really shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, 25,000 would be 500 meters of trail. Brand new trail. If assuming you're not bringing material in, at £50 a meter, say. So it's not a lot, but if you're saying that's Dalby Forest, how many visits do they see in a year?
I honestly, I couldn't tell you. They do
No,
have
I know.
figures, but probably I'd be very surprised if it's less than 250,000 or something like that. But it's hundreds of thousands.
£5 a day, is it parking?
In the winter, it's about £9 in the summer.
Okay, well, that's 5,000 visitors would pay for that trail. 5,000 visits, 5,000 parkings. So, but the minute you bring in material, doubles the cost. We had our final trail, Snakes and Ladders, when they got to come build it, was just like a sand pit. So they built the trail with the sand as best they could, and then they had to resurface it, so it doubled the cost. Literally overnight went, from 64,000 to 128,000 or whatever. So which we had to it's a headache in itself as well. But yeah, it's just astonishing how much it actually costs. I think we paid 64,000 for our latest trail of a kilometer. So, and that's all as dug, not no surfacing.
Yeah.
So it's not cheap. And that would take us quite a while to get to that point to parking revenue to build a new trail. So
yeah,
we
totally. But I
definitely-
suppose going back to the Derby example, so that 25k they put back into trails is what, less than a tenth, or a lot less than a tenth of what they actually would get in parking revenue. So I haven't done the maths, yeah, but it's not much.
I think that
Yeah,
the figures are probably available. You know, because I think they have to publish them somewhere, or, you know, because they're a public body, don't they? So we could probably find out.
Yeah, but they may not publish it to that level of detail. But interesting, you could do, I suppose. That's an FOI. I love my FOI request. When I get some time at some point in 2028, I'll do that. But yeah, but one issue is sort of breaking the sort of current vicious cycle that we're in, where bike riders don't think money goes back into trails, and therefore they're not incentivized to actually, you know, donate or pay money to Forestry England or to other public landowners. But then the second is the volunteer problem. You know, going back to Hadley, you know, yes, the council haven't spent enough money on it, probably because they didn't have the council budget to spend ongoing maintenance on the trails. But then also they've pissed off the local volunteer group so much the volunteers have stopped working on the trails, because, you know, they haven't properly valued that volunteer resource. And again, that's a fairly common problem, you know, across the UK. It's not just a Hadley thing. Yeah, I mean, my firm belief is if we can get landowners, whether they be public ones or not, to actually value volunteers more, that solves at least part of the problem. Because there's a lot of, you know, volunteer resources just not being used at the moment on those trails.
Yeah, I think the Forest Commission only value the volunteers at like £15 an hour or something like that, which is like a labourer's rate, really. But the sort of the amount of work and the effort that we put in, we are trail designers. You know, if I was charging, it'd be, you know, what I was used to be charging when I was working, it'd be like £600 a day.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, it's not just the financial, you know, valuing it financially, it's valuing it in terms of the way that they relate to volunteer groups, you know what I mean, and treat volunteer groups and are prepared to, you know, help make things happen rather than block things happening. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I must admit, at the moment we're resurfacing, well, we're reshaping all the berms on Oblivion, which is section 28 at Dolby, which we'll be doing on Sunday. That's a very difficult section to get a contractor into because it's steep. So it would cost an absolute fortune. They'd have to dig the way in and dig the way out. And we're doing it by hand. And we'll probably use 5 or 6 dig days. And obviously it won't be quite as big and quite as swoopy as maybe you get with a contractor. But we're doing it for peanuts by comparison to what they'd have to pay for that to be rebuilt by a contractor. So there's a massive saving there.
Yeah, 100%. Anyone else want to add anything? Or I might bring it to a close. No, but well, look, Chris, thank you so much. It's been great to hear the story. It's been great to, you know, really understand the detail, and it's really impressive what you've built up there. And I, you know, like someone said earlier, I can't wait to get up there and actually ride the trails myself and experience them.
Yeah, let me know when you're coming.
Yeah, well, I will. Well, I presume I'll see you face to face at the Scottish Mountain Bike Conference.
Unfortunately not. I've chanced my arm too much with my head teacher to get released from school. I burned all my brownie points for the last year and a bit, so I need to just knuckle down for a bit.
Fair enough. I think there is one day of it on a Saturday, maybe, but anyway.
We'll see. Maybe.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for coming. And again, my apologies for not sending out my reminder. In the end, it was quite nice to have a fairly intimate call and really get to know Chris properly. So great. Thanks very much, guys. And I will see you next month. We've got a good next month, and I'll make sure I'll inform people properly in advance next time. So thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
See ya.